This is Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor Live. And unlike the atheistic creeps, including one of the department stores near here that doesn't celebrate Christmas anymore, we're big on Christmas, real big. So today, due to the efforts of Ted and one of his good friends, we got ourselves a tree. Do you like our tree? Congratulate Ted. Look at the gifts on the tree. Biden crime families on the tree. We should put something here for Navy. Because they will. Right? We should send her a Christmas. We should send her a Christmas gift. And what we should also do is say, don't feel bad that that you're not connected with the Biden family, because that's going to be your salvation in the future. He's the worst president. Your grandfather, who would not recognize you, is the worst president in American history, a total, complete scoundrel, criminal, bum, and evil man. Merry Christmas. Well, old Tannenbaum, which of course is sung in English as "Oh Christmas Tree, oh Christmas Tree." That's why I picked it out. I picked it out because of the Christmas tree, and because we have our beautiful Christmas tree here. 47. I think this tree has a struggle. You think they can tell who we voted for? Why we're going to be very happy in this New Year's?
Shout out to the great Steven Schumacher for decorating this tree. This may be the best decorated tree I've ever seen.
No, I'm sorry. And you know, the tree came in around 3 o'clock today.
We just got this sucker.
We got it today. We got it today because we're going to be in places. We're going to be in North Pole for Christmas, working with Santa. We're going to be broadcasting. You know, we broadcast all the time, but we'll be with Santa on Christmas. So our Florida stay is limited a bit. So we wanted to, do our Florida celebration, but we'll be back in between Christmas and New Year's. Maybe we'll.
So is that a drone? I don't know if the audience can hear that.
There are drones. Well, Admiral Kirby, who you can always trust to lie to you, says that the drones are all. There's how many? Did he say 1 million drones?
Millions.
No, I think he said 1 million. I don't think he said 1 million. I think he said 1 million.
All right.
They're 1 million, and they're flying around all the time. So I've been spending the last 2 days looking for one. I figure if there got to be some in South Florida, and I've been calling friends all over the country. So far, nobody except Rob in New Jersey has seen a damn drone. So it's not curious to him that all the drones decided to go to New Jersey. Well, what is there, a convention in New Jersey? A drone convention? There's something very, I'm sorry to say this. There's something very fishy about this. This one baffles me. And I'll tell you what really threw me off. The president-elect, number 47 here, saying that they asked him if he was briefed or not, and he was cagey about it. He didn't say yes, he didn't say no. I am assuming, always bad to assume, so I want to tell you my assumption so you can decide how much credit you want to give to this. So assumption number one is that they would have to have briefed the soon-to-be commander-in-chief about this. And I would think, knowing Trump, if he wasn't, he'd make a real big stink about it, as he should. So when he said that if these were foreign actors, they would surely have attacked them by now, I think he's sending us a signal that they're not foreign actors. Now, am I sure of that? Have I asked him? I wouldn't presume to do that. I never, even when I was his lawyer, I always stayed away from classified material. I don't have a clearance for that. And I don't know if you know it, but I am very, very rigid about stuff like that. which is why their prosecutions of me and legal cases and all of that are really just a travesty. I spent my whole life, making sure the forms are right. He heard me today with the discovery thing to make sure that the statement is accurate. These people are really horrible. So they're creating this problem. This is a problem that you wouldn't have under, I'm not even going to say Trump, a normal president. You'd put out at least enough information so that people would calm down. This is what creates the conspiracy theories. When Kirby says something stupid like there are drones flying around all the time and they're legal, but yeah, not 3,000 all in one place when they're not flying around anyplace else, and not right next to the ocean that they're going back to. So there's something that connects all these drones. Now, Trump is telling us not to worry about a foreign actor. So then what could it be? Could it be the government doing something? Whatever the government's doing, you don't need 3,000 drones. If the government is chasing nuclear material that escaped, they're going to do it on the ground. They're not going to do it up in the air. And they'll have a couple of drones up there. In fact, they have so many drones, they would get absolutely confusing information. Of course, they're so stupid, they might. I mean, when are they going to go, Ted? When are they going to leave? Please go away. Let our country go. Put it in the hands of people that have a brain.
It's just another.
Who the hell knows who they're working for?
You're right. It's just another example.
Who they're working for. They're definitely working for China. They're definitely working for Iran. I don't think they're working for North Korea. North Korea turns out to be a real problem for Russia. They just ended up killing 8 Russian troops in Ukraine. Putin's got to be saying to himself, what the hell did I bring that jackass in?
Yeah, we may have been better off without them.
They would have been. His soldiers.
8 more men.
Now, again, this is all stuff that is leaked, right? Because you never know what's true and what's not true coming out of Russia. But a couple of weeks ago, there were a number of really very, very harsh stories about how the Russian military reacted to these North Korean soldiers and said they don't know what the hell they're doing. And there'd be every reason for that to be true because these guys don't know a damn thing about the modern world. They say it was a language barrier, and that's why they killed 8 Russians. I don't know how you explain to a Russian family. I don't know if Putin even does what an American president does. He probably doesn't. Look, I'm going to tell you about my reaction to Putin, which might be a little different than my good friend. I don't know, but I think it's pretty much the same. I think Putin is one of the 3 or 4 most evil men in the world. And one of the 3 or 4 most evil men, no, one of the 8 or 9 or 10 most evil men that I met. Remember, I prosecuted the Nazis. And when President Bush, President Bush, the younger, right, when he said that he looked in his eyes and he saw, a man of faith or whatever, I actually met with Putin shortly after that. I said, I see a killer, a stone cold killer. I am not, please let me make it clear. I am not a big critic at all of President George W. Bush. So I'll fight with you about him. I announced at a speech that I gave in 2004 that what he did after September 11 will, no matter what else he does, make him a great president. We were very lucky to have him. We could have had Al Gore. Now, who knows where we'd be now? We'd be run by bin Laden if we had Al Gore. He would have gone and, dropped a bomb in an empty field like Clinton was doing, and we get attacked again and again and again and again. He cut that off like that. That was the swiftest reaction America had maybe since Pearl Harbor. Even that we didn't react too quickly because we weren't ready. But in any event, the whole situation in Ukraine is so unfortunate because now people are dying for nothing. They're dying waiting for a settlement. And I really do think President Trump's got to be very, very careful because of the law that says that you can't. What is the Logan Act, right? That says that you can't interfere in foreign relations. Now, there's a certain amount of leeway that's given in that law to a president coming into office. Now, last time they didn't give that to him. They even used that in part to prosecute General Flynn. But if I'm coming into office, I want to learn everything I can learn as quickly as possible. I mean, it's a very short period of time to get ready for the most difficult job in the world. And on the day that you take over, they could attack to test you. So you got to be prepared. Now, I don't know how forthcoming the Biden people are. I'm going to say they probably are. I don't know how accurate they are because they're so stupid. So even if they're not being deliberately difficult like they were, like Obama was last time, I don't think Biden is. They'll be difficult because they're so stupid. In other words, the information they give you isn't worth the paper it's written on because they don't know what the hell's going on. So you got to do some of your own digging and negotiating and talking and meeting with people, which he is doing brilliantly. And he is, and they're not criticizing him for it, which I think is a recognition of the terribly difficult situation we're in with a president who is a very ill man and doesn't know what the hell is going on at all. So Judge Merchan solidified, again, the fact that he is just one of thousands of examples over the last 150 years of a crooked Democrat Manhattan judge. If you hear Supreme Court Justice Manhattan, assume that he's a creature of the corrupt Democrat Party or her, because in most cases they are. And also assume that in a political case, they'll fix it because they will. And he did. He should have dismissed that case. Didn't even have to get to immunity. He should have dismissed it for failure to state a crime. He should have dismissed it for failure to prove a crime. He should have dismissed it because it was a less than unanimous verdict. He should have dismissed it because he let in massive amounts of prejudicial testimony, all geared to convict Trump and deny the defense a great deal of testimony they wanted to put in. And he should have dismissed it because it violated every concept of due process. And even if it were closer to a fair trial, it's a ridiculous thing, this ridiculous little misdemeanor that's time barred, which didn't even happen. But even if it did happen, that should interfere with a president. And he should go nuts on Bragg for suggesting that it be held over Trump's head for the next 4 years. And he should recommend that the governor remove Bragg from office. And the governor isn't removing Bragg from office because it came up again today because she's waiting for money from the Buffalo Stadium. There was an analysis today of all the money the state spent on the Buffalo Stadium, with a great deal of criticism of all the money that Hochul put into it and how it will do no good for the people of Buffalo. The Buffalo Stadium is in a suburb of Buffalo. The people of Buffalo wanted it in Buffalo so that it could help Buffalo grow, because actually it sucks money out of Buffalo. Well, she went along with putting it in the suburb, and she put in a disproportionate amount of state money, both when she was a local politician in Buffalo and when she was governor. And it is pointed out in the newspapers today that this should be looked at. But they do leave out the key fact because they are such horribly prejudiced people. The key fact is that her husband's going to make millions on this new stadium. He is an executive and a key person in the concession company that services that stadium. A new stadium doubles or triples your concession revenues almost always because of, and that's one of the reasons they build new stadiums, because the aisles and the passageways are much bigger. And they have many more. They put in many more stands and places to purchase. So instead of having 8 people online, you have 3, and it's been shown over the years that when people interrupt to go to the stands to buy something, maybe in a football game, at the end of the first quarter, if they see a long line, a lot of them back off and go back to their seats. And if they see a very short line, they spend their $100. The revenue of Yankee Stadium, the first year it had its new stadium, for concessions, I think doubled. We're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars for a hubby hobble. And the New York press, of course, doesn't cover it at all because they are completely corrupted by Democrat politics in New York and by the Democrat corrupt hold on New York, which in the case of the city of New York is 150 years of complete corruption and the naming of a courthouse for one of the greatest political crooks in American history, Boss Tweed. Only a corrupt place like New York would take down statues of Thomas Jefferson and leave up a massive criminal, a courthouse to a massive criminal. It reminds them that they're all entitled to steal. And you can assume that most of them do, which is also why President Trump should be very, very careful about pardoning Adams. It might very well be true that this case was brought against him because he spoke out against Biden. It probably was. That doesn't mean he didn't do it. He's a Democrat from Brooklyn, from the Brooklyn machine. Mr. President, remember, and there are 3 other cases, including one that looks very, very difficult for him, which is all the money spent on the illegals that he brought in, which would explain why he was so ridiculously stupid in bringing so many in, because he could give out a lot of contracts with a lot of money in it. I mean, I don't want to see the president pardon him, and then all of a sudden he'll get indicted anyway. I don't think the president would give him a pardon for things he doesn't know about. In fact, it's questionable whether you can do that. It has again been raised by Jonathan Charlie, who has been remarkably accurate on stuff like this, that this whole issue of Biden pardons, Biden doing these broad pardons for hundreds of people, is still alive. And there's another thought as to why he might do it. I mean, one is they're afraid that Trump will prosecute them, but Trump has gone out of his way to make clear that he's not going to do mass prosecutions. Of course, that doesn't mean he won't do selective prosecution. So the top people probably still are very fearful, and they're probably all very fearful because they think he's like them. But they predicted. They ran the whole campaign on the fact that Trump was another Hitler, and that Trump would prosecute his enemies, thousands of them, and take away your rights. And well, of course that wasn't true. He didn't do that the first time he was president. There's no reason he'd do it now, and that's exactly what Biden was doing. And if they don't pardon these people, and it turns out that Trump maybe prosecutes 8 or 10 or 12 of the most serious violators, but not mass prosecutions like Biden has done, then it'll prove for sure that they were wrong. However, if they do a pardon, they can always say they stopped Trump. This is the theory of Jonathan Turley, who is a law professor and a practicing lawyer, who I think you probably know from being on Fox. And I don't think I don't know if it's true, but I think it's a pretty good theory, which means that this pardon thing, which has a lot of downsides to it from Biden's point of view, it's going to solidify his place in history as a very, very disreputable president. But I think a lot of other things are going to do that anyway. Um, and even though I don't think there'll be mass prosecutions, it's almost impossible that there won't be some. Very hard to see how Christopher Wray doesn't get prosecuted, given all the cover-ups he was involved in. Uh, it I mean, actually, if Biden doesn't pardon himself, he should be prosecuted. Nobody's above the law, isn't that what they always say? Not even a demented, evil crook like him. So we'll have to see. Remember, if these pardons happen, they're probably going to happen the night he's leaving office, right? Which in a way will make him even more scandalous. There's something to those midnight pardons, those midnight pardons. So Adams has been deprived of having any kind of public funds in the next election because he's been indicted, which seems kind of inconsistent with the idea that people are innocent until they're proven guilty. But whoever said that New York is a democracy? It's a Democrat dictatorship, and he went against the big organized crime boss, Joe Biden. So he's going to be denied a lot of money if he wants to run for reelection, which he apparently does want to do. I guess it's going to depend a little on what happens. I really doubt that Adams convicted will have the same impact that Trump convicted had, because it's in Trump's case, the cases were clearly manufactured. In his case, these are typical Democrat crimes that they've been committing for 150 years. It'd be more unusual if he didn't do it than if he did. And the minute you see the numbers for his homeless contracts and the numbers for his illegal alien contracts and how inflated they were compared to other states, immediately you say, gee, he's got to be a real fool not to know his people were kicking around a lot of illegal money. I mean, they bought that with Biden, but he's no Biden, right? His number two person, Ingrid Lewis Martin, is being represented by my friend, Arthur Idala. And Arthur did a sort of preemptive press conference yesterday, which indicates to me she's going to get indicted. And he's blaming the DA for singling them out for prosecution for political reasons, which, of course, as a lawyer, he has every right to, may or may not. Well, I think it is true, actually. I think this whole thing, if he had not turned on whether she's innocent or guilty, whether Adams is innocent or guilty, to the Bidens, it doesn't matter. They'd be ignored if they were guilty. I told you about Hochul. Hochul is involved in situations far worse than Adams, for much larger amounts of money, and nobody even talks about investigating it. Here they are putting out these reports on how much money is being wasted on the stadium that's going to make millions for her and her husband, where she has not just a conflict of interest, but it would get closer to the state's bribery statute, and nobody's even looking at it. But she remained a very nice Democrat, willing to go along with the criminality, and never raised her voice and never cared how he was screwing her city or state. The Israelis, the Israelis have done most of our dirty work against the Houthis, but it was good to see that we attacked Yemen the other day. We targeted the Al Arda complex in the capital of Sana'a and made the Houthis pay for the damage they've done to our ships, to international shipping, and the Americans they kill. Now we should go after the real boss, Iran. Let's see if we are. The new leader just the leadership, I should say, of Syria is making noises like he is going to modernize the country. he is going to he has disavowed his connections to Al Qaeda and the terrorist group that he was a part of for all of his life. And he even assured the Christians in the Christian part of Syria, of which there is still a lot of Christians, that they're not going to be persecuted. See, their fear was, the Christians who are in the western part of Syria, was that they have more to fear from the rebels than they do from Assad, because the rebels are the religiously motivated Muslim terrorists. Assad is just a terrorist. And although he did do some persecution of Christians, he mostly just let them be. Whereas part of the group that overthrew Assad are the people who believe in a Muslim caliphate, but a different kind of caliphate than Iran. I know this gets complicated because they are Sunni rather than Shia, but they're much more hostile to religion. So Assad may have been a devil, but for Christians, this other group was more to fear. Now, the new group that's taken over is basically saying to the Christians that they're going to be safe and that they've turned a new leaf. Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani he said this directly. He was a member of Al Qaeda. He was a member of the Islamic State. He broke with both of those groups about 3 years ago. And the interim prime minister that he appointed appeared on television, and here was a little bit of an issue. He just put up their flag, and a lot of people are worried. However, Jawlani assured the Christians, which is a population. Listen to how much room there is here in the calculation, how many Christians there are in Syria, which will tell you how many they killed. 200 to 600,000. They don't know if there's a 400,000 difference in the calculation of the number of Christians in Syria. And there used to be a lot more than that. So we'll have to see if Jawlani is in fact going to govern as a more modern dictator. He has already said, and again, this would be correct, that they're not ready for elections. So that could be just a completely accurate, sensible assessment of what the situation is, or they may never be ready for elections, right? So I want to take us to another topic now. So should I take a short break at this point?
We'll be right back after these
Messages.
short messages.
To celebrate the new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
This is Rudy Giuliani back with America's Mayor Live. We, of course, are now entering the most interesting part of the football season, right? Which is both the college and the NFL playoffs are starting to form, right? The NFL is starting to form. The college is already set with their 12 teams. And Ted follows football even more than I do and keeps more current with it than I do. So there was an article today basically saying that although that Kansas City is the weakest looking, 13-1 team ever. They always look shaky. And I haven't watched them enough to know that. And then they say that Josh Allen is right now the best quarterback in football. And I guess he brought them back against Detroit to win a key game last weekend.
That's right.
So they're both in the AFC. So they cannot go to the Super Bowl together.
That's right.
It's going to be one or the other.
That's right.
And of course, there are a lot of vagaries in getting there because I assume they're both going to be seeded and not have to play the first weekend, right?
Right. Nope. Nowadays in the NFL, only one team gets a bye.
So that would be Kansas City.
So as of now, that's Kansas City.
Unless
That's
they
right.
lose a game or two.
That's right.
And so Buffalo will have to play one extra game, right?
Right. Which can hurt, or that doesn't always hurt. I mean, obviously you don't want to play.
I remember the Giants
Exactly.
were the lowest seeded team when they beat the Patriots, who were undefeated.
Yeah, you don't. That week off can hurt.
Giants had to win every playoff game on the road.
Yeah,
and I think it made them tougher.
They beat Green Bay.
Yeah, I mean they had to win every one in San Francisco.
I believe both years that the Giants went to the Super Bowl, they beat the Packers.
Yeah, but I think were they both on the road both times?
That's right. Yeah, and that's
the second time they did have a game or two at home.
Yeah, that's right. And they a lot of the New York Giants have a lot of history. The Packers have a lot of history. The Chiefs are kind of a
recent team. Although they were in the second Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean they're a blue blood. They're an NFL blue blood. Well, they're an AFC blue blood, right? Yeah. They were with the AFC, but early on, their owner, right, the Clark family.
Yeah.
They were instrumental.
Team.
Right.
They were in the first Super Bowl.
The Hunt family. Sorry, Clark Hunt is his name. Yeah. The old man.
Oakland was in the second Super Bowl. And Lombardi beat both of them quite convincingly. And then the
Chiefs, the first Super Bowl.
And the very big surprise, the Jets, who were not as good as those two teams, people thought, and they went ahead and upset the Baltimore Colts.
Oh, that's right. The third Super Bowl.
So the AFC, I mean, made itself known right away. People thought the AFC wouldn't win a Super Bowl for 10 years.
Right.
And Joe Namath predicted they were going to win, and he went in and he beat them.
That's right.
In the third Super Bowl. So the question is, how good is Josh Allen? Every time I've seen him, I've been very impressed with him.
Right. He's good. Josh Allen is a good quarterback. He's got all the fundamentals. Coming out of college, he was highly sought after. And he's physical. He's got a strong arm. But he is, by all accounts, leading the MVP race. And quarterbacks obviously have a big advantage when it comes to the MVP award. That's the most valuable player, awarded to the best player of the year. Well, really the most valuable player of the year. So often that means, unless they really stand out, a player on a losing team isn't always considered.
What do they have? 2 more games left?
Wow. So we are now in week. That's right. We have 3, I believe. Now
3 more games
they
left.
have. It's an 18-week season. 17 games, which goes up from 16 games a couple years ago. So this is we have 3 more weeks of football before the playoffs.
The college teams, the ones who go on in the playoff hunt, are going to play as many games as the professionals. Almost very close.
Yes.
They're going to add 3 or 4 games to their 12-game schedule,
If you want to win the national
which is
championship,
probably not a good idea for youngsters.
well, no, but however,
There's a lot of debate about whether they should play that many games.
absolutely, but now they're paid in college. So the big debate before
That doesn't
was
make your body any better than you pay.
no, it doesn't make your body any better. However, you start getting paid sooner. These guys are almost going to be treated like professional athletes. So the idea is they're getting rewarded earlier and sooner, right?
I agree that they should be paid because it's ridiculous to think of college football anymore as an amateur sport.
Right. It's
Not when the coaches all on any of the top 50 teams make $1 million a month.
They're the highest paid public employees in every state, right?
Well, they're the highest paid military people.
That too. That's funny. Well, that shows how much we love football.
In the American government.
Is the football coach?
The coach of West Point, who probably should have gotten reduced for losing.
Yeah, he might lose a little bit.
And the coach of Navy and the coach of Air Force.
And Air Force. That is fascinating. It makes sense. I mean, that's a big recruiting tool, right? I would say the Army Navy game.
Which one of the reasons why Army at least had gone. I mean, they had a great season until they lost to Navy. They only lost 1 game.
Yeah.
To name. But one of the reasons that they were losing in recruiting was not only the military commitment, which they can kind of work around. It was they wouldn't have very, very good coaches. They would. The great players want to be under the best coaches.
That's right, to prepare
So
them.
they had to make sure that, and Navy and Air Force kept up the level of coaches, and Army had fallen behind. So, I mean, it is a consideration that that you have to think about. So, are you ready to? It's too early to make any predictions, right?
Right.
Or would you like to hazard a prediction on either or both?
I think Josh Allen will win the MVP award. The Buffalo Bills, it's kind of like
you think they'll win the
MVP award. AFC title is tough, right? I think what we can look, you want to pick.
Kansas City with all of the experience, will they tough it out?
Yes. So that's it. Their experience playing at home. It's tough to bet against the Chiefs in the playoffs.
Yeah, but there's every dynasty stops. You just got to know when.
You're right. Unfortunately,
Now it took for the Patriots. It took losing Brady.
Tom Brady. That's right.
So maybe they stay that way until Mahomes goes.
Look, the Kansas City Chiefs have been in the last 6 AFC title games,
and he's a remarkable quarterback. Although I guess he's a bit injured, right?
Right. They've been the Kansas City Chiefs have been in the AFC Championship game. That's the final game before the Super Bowl. Right, the championship of their conference, the last 6 years. And so it's tough to bet against them. Look, the Chiefs have had Josh Allen's number. The Chiefs have beat Josh Allen multiple times on their way to the Super Bowl, including in 2021. And that was a tough one for the Bills. And now it'll be interesting, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are probably still the odds-on favorite. And watch out for my Packers in the NFC. So you might see a rematch of Super Bowl 1, which I've been wanting for years now.
Tell me about the NFC. Who are the best teams there, so everybody can start thinking about it.
Well, the Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFC, which is again relatively.
Even though they were defeated.
Even though they were defeated, they still remain the top seed in the NFC, and they are very much favored to win the conference. The Eagles sit at 12-2 as well. That's Philadelphia. And the Minnesota Vikings are also 12-2. Green Bay is 10-4. The Washington Commanders are 9-5.
Well, that's because they're named after a prophylactic.
And then you have some 8-6 teams: Tampa Bay, Los Angeles Rams.
What's the ridiculous name of the
Seattle Seahawks?
What's the ridiculous name of the Cleveland Guardians?
The Cleveland Guardians
and the Commanders.
and the Commanders. So the Washington
I'm
Commanders.
telling you, they sound like two prophylactic brands.
That's right. And that's how we started our show. The Cleveland Guardians, the New York Yankees, and the
Were they the
NBA
Guardians?
playoffs 2022.
The Indians?
They were the Guardians. That was one of our
Oh,
early.
too bad.
That was their first year, I believe, as the Guardians. And yeah, that's baseball.
A lot of people, including Native Americans, want the Redskin name back.
Right. It's including Native Americans. I mean, they used to honor the Native Americans. They do all sorts of
90%.
events.
It's
Is it really 90? It's the white liberals, right?
the white. It's
for the natives.
whether you like Malcolm X or not, and there are a lot of reasons not to like him because he was very violent. He made one of the truest statements ever that the Democrats and the white liberals ignore completely. He said the biggest enemy of the African American is the American white liberal.
And he's spot on. And again, the white liberal.
The biggest enemy of America. I mean, they're the ones that go crazy over knocking down statues and mutilating children and
honor these tribes, the educational. I learned more about Native Americans in the NFL than I swear to God, than any other place. Right? The Green Bay Packers, there's a big Native American population in northern Wisconsin. The Washington Redskins, and they would honor the traditions and the people. They bring these folks out, and now they're all just forgotten. So quite something there. And do you say Redskins or do you say Commanders? You're a rival here, so you may not pay attention to them at all.
I always call them Redskins. I'm not even. I keep forgetting their name, Commanders.
I still call them the Redskins, and I still call them the Redskins.
I don't think they should be allowed to win with that name.
I agree. I agree. Can you imagine?
The Yankees have clobbered the Guardians every time. I think it's because they're named Guardians. The players don't feel, players don't feel I'm a Guardian. I mean, that you should go take care of them all. That's a baseball player.
Well, comment below. Give us your thoughts. Do you say Redskins or Commanders when referring to the NFL team? If you're a football
fan, Commanders, not the Guardians. They're the Commanders.
Yeah, Cleveland Guardians. The Cleveland Indians became the Cleveland Guardians. That's a baseball team in Cleveland, of course.
Yeah,
the Washington Redskins became the Washington Commanders. By the way, they play in Maryland, so they should be the Maryland. If we're going to be,
but don't do that.
Isn't that offensive? It's offensive to the people of Maryland.
It'll be the New Jersey Giants and the New Jersey Jets if you're not careful.
I think there's some racism here. It's offensive to the people of Maryland that they call themselves the Washington Redskins.
Oh, well, you stop.
Outside.
You're getting like them. Everything
I know.
is racism.
Well, that's what I'm doing, right? It's part of it. Well, Maryland, outside DC, Maryland is the historic. Maryland's historic black sections of outside DC, right?
Right.
And Virginia, historically white. They decide. Why did they call themselves the Landover Maryland Commanders? Why are they the Washington DC? Or the Washington Command? Anyway, I'm doing a shtick. Obviously, I don't feel that way.
Why don't they put them both together and be the Washington Land Grabbers?
That would be creative.
There was a big discovery made, archaeological discovery, which is an 1,800-year-old silver amulet, and it deciphered from the writing on it. It was a religious object, and it was found in Frankfurt, which places Christianity in Europe about 200 years earlier than was previously thought. And one of the 18 lines of the engraving proclaims Jesus Christ is the Son of God. But it was found in Frankfurt, which would been outside, which would have been in the Roman Empire, but the outer fringes of the Roman Empire. And there isn't an awful lot about preaching in Germania. There's a great deal about preaching in the Middle East. That's where Paul went to the Middle East, and Peter stayed in the Roman Empire. So this expands the knowledge of how quickly Christianity spread within the Roman Empire. It's a very, very important finding, and you should read about it if you're a Christian and you want to know about the history of your religion, which changed the world more than any other religion in history. There isn't any doubt about that, by the way. whether you're a Christian or not, the impact of Christianity was overwhelming. So the shooting in Madison, with the two people dead, 6 people injured, uh, and this 15-year-old now dead perpetrator, Natalie Samantha Rupnow, is another one where immediately Biden gives his ridiculous press conference about gun control. Now, if you read her manifesto, which is very, very troubling and very difficult, and doesn't fit into all of the things that the politicians would like to fit it into. It doesn't show that she was left wing or right wing. It doesn't show that she was anti this or anti that or pro this or pro that. It shows that she was a very seriously mentally ill person with tremendous, tremendous anger about her father and parents, which may or may not be justified. So this is not by any means any kind of judgment on them. I know, and you probably know families where they have 4 children, and 3 children are wonderful, and one is a criminal or a drug addict, and they brought them all up the same, and the one who is the drug addict turns out to hate everybody and unjustifiably. So don't conclude when you read this manifesto that the father is necessarily guilty. He may be, but it also may be the ravings of an insane mind. And that's the thing you emerges from it. I read it, and first of all, it's not absolutely certain it's her manifesto. It probably is, and her boyfriend says it is, but her boyfriend is a little sketchy too because he never met her. So I don't know. I never heard of boyfriends that you never met, but of course that this is now online thing back and forth where they become very close to each other online, and he has dispelled the rumor about whether she was transgender. He says she was female, definitely female. And there's nothing in the history of her that suggests that she was, the brief history that we have right now. So I think that should be put aside. And it appears as if whether it would or would not have anything to do with it, has anything to do with it. It is true that her animosity was to a Christian school. But again, from one reading of the manifesto, if it's reality, it doesn't seem it's the religious part of the school that was giving her trouble. They were bullying her, which could happen in any school, Christian school, public school, private school, any school. And and when you're dealing with a disturbed mind, it also may or may not be true. I mean, there are people that are paranoid, and there are people following them, and there are people that are paranoid, and nobody's following them. So you don't know the answer to that. And this comes from a lot of experience with this, not from, you don't know the answer to that yet. So let's not start making judgments based upon our political or sociological biases. You never get good answers to crimes that way. Here's what it is. Here's a statement that could be made that is valuable, and it is these shootings take place not because of guns, because this girl was considering, if you read, a bomb. If she didn't have guns, she'd have found something else. They take place because we do not have a good grip on mental illness in this country, nor do we spend enough time trying to figure it out, or do we spend enough time protecting ourselves against it. When somebody's mentally ill, we fall apart and we don't put them. We don't put them in detention any longer and hold them. I mean, it's terrible that they're mentally ill, but it's even worse if they kill innocent people. So we've got a lot of thinking that we have to do about this, and a lot of changes. It affects New York City probably more than any place else. But this wasn't New York City. And crime has become much more spread across the entire country from the time that I was a prosecutor in New York City. And we can thank Joe Biden for that. His influx of immigrants was a very different group of immigrants, and the stupid liberals should stop saying that immigrants don't commit crimes at the same level as regular Americans. That used to be true. That is not true anymore because the whole nature of immigration has changed. So we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
These deals are
Well, welcome back to America's Mayor Live. We're going to be a little unusual tonight, and we're going to break it pretty much at 9 because we have to go to this party for Newsmax, which we're dreadfully late for. It started at like 6 or 7, but I felt like I should be here giving you a live show. I only will do taped shows absolutely when I have to, because and largely because the times are so dynamic right now that I mean, you could tape it 2 hours ago and it could be completely irrelevant 2 hours later. Well, U.S. Navy Corporal and Sheriff's Officer Lori Wood adored the camaraderie of her law enforcement family and being a part of something bigger than herself. Having the opportunity to educate and mentor aspiring law enforcement officers and have an effect on the next generation of professionals was rewarding, and Lori took great pride in it. One day, while going over drills with recruits at the academy, Lori fell from the roof of a mock village. She sustained a T10 and T12 burst fracture, leaving her with paraplegia. Her recovery was initially very, very difficult as she learned to navigate this new normal, but she remained resilient and maintained a positive outlook. Thanks to supporters like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Lori and her son Gavin the gift of a very specially adapted mortgage-free smart homes. The modifications made to Lori's home allowed her to adapt to living in a two-story home in a much more easy and inclusive way. Lori wants you to know that she is fiercely independent at her core, and the assistance from T2T, made possible by friends like you, has allowed her to keep that part of herself. So for Lori's sake and for the other families, many, many of them, and there'll be more, tragically, donate $11 a month at t2t.org. That's T, the number 2t.org, t2t.org. And in this time of Christmas, I don't know how you can turn me down. And if you do, I'll be very upset with you. So get on the phone and pledge your $11 a month to pay just a small part of what we owe our people in the military and our people in law enforcement. So the whole situation, the whole situation in Ukraine is completely tragic. It's completely tragic because it is now a definite 100% stalemate, and they are. It's like a team when a game is over fighting for 3 yards of field position. But in the process of doing that, a lot of people are getting killed. I mean, the 8 Russian soldiers killed by the North Koreans, and I'm not laughing. I mean, I shouldn't. I just think it was ridiculous for Putin to bring the North Koreans in, and his military, I think, really tried to rebel against it, but you can't in a country like that. And I mean, these people are not ready for a sophisticated, if there is such a thing as a sophisticated war. These are people who have, one channel on their televisions. They have. I mean, you tell them they're going to Ukraine. They don't even know what the hell that means. And you tell them to tell the difference between the Ukrainians and the Russians. Well, they shoot the 8 Russians. They apparently the excuse they give is language barrier. They do have different uniforms. I mean, well, in any event, we can't wait really for Trump. I think the first thing Trump has got to do, whether he can solve it immediately or not, is they got to just do a ceasefire. Let them just stick with what they got right now, whatever it's like. I mean, in fact, Biden should do that as a humanitarian gesture. You're not going to. All that's going to happen now is people going to die for nothing. And why people are protesting what's going on with the people that are dying in the Middle East, and they're protesting that the Palestinians are being killed for nothing, when in fact the Palestinians are dedicated to the destruction of the state of Israel and demonstrated that in a very, very vicious, animalistic, barbaric way. But they don't really seem to give a damn if lives are being wasted in Ukraine, whether they're Ukrainian or Russian. What is the point to dying now in Ukraine? The Russians they're not going to move the Russians out of where they are. I'm not sure the Russians are going to be able to move the Ukrainians out of Kursk. That's where they brought the 5,000 Koreans in to help with, and they're killing the Russians. That may have been a terrible mistake. So why not leave Ukraine with Kursk until we negotiate, leave Russia with what they got until you negotiate, and then see if ceasefire until January 20th, when we get a president that actually has a mind, and then we'll see if we can't settle the damn thing without wasting any more Ukrainian and Russian lives. That's not really a very ingenious idea, but it would give you an idea of how terrible our government is. And it's not just Biden, because he's got people around him making decisions, and they're too stupid to do this. Anybody who dies now in Ukraine, or any Ukrainian or Russian who dies now, completely needless death. Nobody, the essential nature of where they are is not going to change as a result of that. Biden, the one thing Biden wasn't, or again, the cabal around him wasn't stupid enough to buy into, was to allow Zelensky to invade Russia, so we could go to a nuclear war. And you have to assess the critical value and the critical nature of what you're defending to put that at risk. And I am enormously disappointed for the Ukrainian people having to live, and particularly those who were taken over by Putin, because their future would have been so much better with the hope that eventually you could have a good Ukrainian government. Now, you don't have a good Ukrainian government, and don't fool people about that. Ukrainian government's corrupt as hell. There's nothing about the Ukrainian government that changed in moving to Zelensky. Might have gotten worse. Well, no, it didn't get worse. It would have been hard to be worse than Poroshenko. Poroshenko took money from everybody, including from Burisma, the company that paid off the Bidens. But Zelensky's done nothing to really fix that. In fact, if anything, he's probably furthered it. And whatever you think of him in terms of fighting against the Russians or whatever, the guy has done nothing about the crooks who made his career, the completely scandalous human being who was his rabbi. Rabbi means his like boss, and the guy who made him. That's a New York expression. And the reality is that there's no reason now to waste any more lives until our new president gets into office and therefore gets an opportunity to settle this thing without anybody else dead. And otherwise, this thing could go on forever. And you're just killing people, and the military-industrial complex on our side and on their side is just making all kinds of extra money, including, you can be sure, in Ukraine, illegal money. Maybe you can be sure in the United States, too. Remember, we have a Foreign Corrupt Practices Act because of the military-industrial complex. So don't get all wishy-washy about that, like McConnell, who said, well, I'm sure that the money is not wasted because it's going to the American military-industrial complex. Oh, yeah? Well, in any event, we'll be back with you tomorrow night at 7 on Frank's Speech and on X. And then we'll be here at 8 at 7 again. Either there or inside, we'll see. It depends always on the weather. And we will bring you up to date on everything that you need to know, which is being suppressed and not given to you, because we still, until January 20th, we're going to be living in a country that is dominated by press censorship. The whole charade with CNN releasing a terrorist and celebrating it, just one example of how absolutely inept and corrupt our media is. It's one of our great problems that is difficult to fix. And maybe we'll spend a little time talking about that, because along with education and the media, both of those have to be fixed if we're going to be a free country again. They're not what our founding fathers thought they would be. And our founding fathers warned us that those are the areas in which we could be destroyed from within. So, like us, don't forget to get ready for Christmas. It's one of the great holidays in the history of the world, one of the great holidays for everyone. And also to get ready for Hanukkah, which is going to be on the same day as Christmas. So God bless you. God bless the people who are in those war-torn countries, including Israel, of course. And God bless America.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense. written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply